Greetings, 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 greetings. What's up, family? What's up? This is Chief Kalinago with another build. Man, I got another super build for y'all. All right. You always know, got to give thanks to the Great Spirit, Mother God, for the continuation of life. Giving thanks to my ancestors, man. Thank you for just thank you for using me as a vessel, to do your work, to be your voice. You know what I'm saying? So just want y'all to know I'm standing on y'all shoulders and I'm doing the righteous thing. You feel me? Um, Family, like I said, I got another banger for y'all. So I'm just gonna give you guys some time to get into the live feed. Please do me a favor. Take the link of the video, share it on your Instagram, your Facebook, every other platform that you could share it, because this information that I'm dropping, man, we gotta get it to the people. 2020 is about vision. All right. We are not going into that with dreams. We ain't dreaming no more. We going as visionaries. You feel me? So with that being said, allow me to greet you, Halito. All right, Mabrikwa, Sakpase, Osio, Shalom, Aloha, Aho. What the deal is? Wagwan. Big up to our West Indian Massive. All right, so let's do this. All right, peace and love to each and all. All right, man. Like I said, I got a banger. All right, another banger. Please share the information. For those of you, all I ask is, man, listen, just do me a favor. It takes a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of research. As you could see, people just think, I just come and do videos. No, I do extensive research to bring facts to you. It takes a lot of time, and all I'm asking is just for a little support. That's all right? You're not obligated, but if you feel free to, show your appreciation, all right? So all that's in the link below. And like I said, let's get into this, man. Let me give some people some more time to chime in, and let's do this. Let's do this. All right, let me just share this. Give me a second while some people tune in. All righty, cool. I'm back, man. Hey, as y'all can see, man, I'm always in great spirits, man. You know what I mean? You always gotta keep smiling, regardless of what, Hey, some days we may not have the best days, you feel me? But you make your day what you want it to be. And as long as you have joy, you have happiness, because those are things that money can't buy. Money to an extent could buy happiness, because some people could buy things and be happy, right? But money cannot buy joy. And that's something that I know and I feel. And I'm joyful. I have so much joy that regardless of whatever my day is going through, I could always pull myself back into myself and just kind of like meditate and realize, man, listen, everything is good. Everything is gravy. You know what I mean? So do me a favor, man, share this link and let's get into this. If you see the title of the video, it said, "Let's Build, Ghana is Calling, and Let's Talk American Indian." Okay, so we're gonna talk about two different sets of people, but at the same time, within the spectrum of all that, some of the people that are calling themselves African Americans are actually American Indians. You feel what I'm saying? So so I'm gonna break a few things down, but this build is gonna be, like I said, I'll let you be the judge of that, but it's gonna be really powerful because I'm gonna break down some things that a lot of people have questions, all right, and they're not sure how to express it or how to articulate it, or even when they read it, what it means. So I'm gonna break some things down, okay, in layman's terms, where a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old could comprehend the information. All right. So you're gonna love it. Okay. So the first thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna address the fact that a lot of our people, all right. Give me a second. I'm gonna address the fact that a lot of our people. All right, just making sure. Okay, I'm good. I'm gonna address the fact that a lot of our people are falling, okay, into the trap of living their home, their birthright, and going to Africa, Ghana, all these different, well, predominantly Ghana right now. They have a huge initiative for the people of the diaspora, okay? But a lot of our people are getting trapped. And I'm not mad. I'm going to tell you why I'm not mad at our people for wanting to feel like they belong. Okay? Because a lot of our people have gone through so much within the territories of the United States. Okay? They have, oppressed us, the abuse, the genocide of our people, which continues to be promoted. All right? But the reason why is because our people feel like they don't belong. They want to feel like, I want to be a part of something, a sense of belonging. And when you are being taught that this is not your home, you're being taught that in school, you're being taught that in the church, you're being taught that in the home. Every time you turn the TV on, your story is about slavery. Okay? Every time you read a newspaper, all you know and all you hear is about, well, you came in shackles. And nobody's telling you the truth except for grandma putting a little bug in your ear. Baby, you got a little Indian in you, not knowing that's the code word for you, the actual Indian, American Indian. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not mad at our people. It's a little bit disappointing because our people perish for the lack of knowledge. All right? But they're just trying to belong. And I want y'all to know, for those who are even thinking about it or who actually already took that journey, come back home. This is your home. This is our home. We just got work to do. You see what I'm saying? We are going to be okay. We are going to be all right. Okay? So after I break down this video and the information, that will open up some of your minds. So right now, a lot of our people are looking for refuge outside of the life and the home and the home that they have always known. But I'm going to expose some reality for those of you who are thinking of making that decision. All right? And hopefully that could deter you from living your birthright, your home. Okay? Where our ancestors have been from time immemorial. And this is really, like I said, this is personal to me. So with that being said, let's get into the information. All right? I'm going to share my screen. And let's do this. Do me a favor, guys. Like I said, share the videos on your Facebook. Just take the link and share it. And, let's get that to the people, okay? All right, so here we are. And of course, when I get my information, I like to, cross-reference. I don't just, run into information and be like, oh, well, no, I don't like to spread propaganda. So I like to cross-reference to make sure what I'm talking about has facts. All right, and I could solidify the things I'm saying. Okay, so here we go. Over 35,000 Ghanaians in Libya on a dangerous journey to Europe. Okay, now let us read that some more. Now, even if this is about Ghanaians in Libya on a dangerous journey to Europe, is because they are fleeing. All right, now reports coming in show that over 35,000 Ghanaians are in Libya and determined to reach Europe by any means necessary. They form part of a larger group of people numbering about 636,426 who are ready to embark on a journey. Now you have to ask yourself the question, why would almost over 500,000 Ghanaians live in Ghana and go into Libya? But our people, American Aborigines, are fighting and dying to go to Libya to get citizenship. When Ghanaians are fleeing Ghana, going to another part of Africa. To me, that just doesn't sound right. Okay, let's read. The Catholic Relief Services, CRS, has released a statement with respect to International Day for Migrants. Latest reports coming in suggest that over 35,000 Ghanaians are currently in Libya and are doing everything possible to head to Europe. The International Organization for Migrations, IOM, reported that they form part of a group of migrants numbering about 636,426 who are determined to embark on the dangerous journey. Okay? The Ghana News Agency reports that the Catholic Relief Service, CRS, has issued a press statement in commemoration of International Day for Migrants. Now, let me ask you a question. I am bringing this article up for a reason. Why aren't the Ghanaian government, all right, or why isn't the Ghanaian government reaching out to their over 500,000 Ghanaian citizens and asking them to come back home? Why are they focusing on American Aborigines to come to Ghana, but yet still there are people they know for a fact that are Ghanaians that's out there in Libya being persecuted? Okay, how is that they're not trying to send for them? So all these things to me are very, very suspicious. All right, they're very suspicious. You know what I mean? But our people going to Ghana, how do you know that you're okay, I'm gonna stop being biased here for a second. Let's just say your ancestor did come from Africa. What tribe did your ancestor come from? How are you going to prove that your ancestor came from Ghana? You can't prove that because there's no records to prove that. All right. So you going to Ghana, making yourself a citizen of Ghana, doesn't necessarily mean that's where your ancestors came from. You just became a citizen of a nation state, which is another corporation. So you are living one corporate entity called the United States, and you are going to another to be another commercial entity, to be another transmitting utility, to be a ward of the state, to be a subject, to be used as commodity. So a lot of our people are making that transition based on emotions, and they're not thinking logically. All right. But I have to show these things. Now let us go to the UN. All right. Some people may say, hey, the UN might be a little more credible, right, in terms of the information. All right. Every week in Brown Ahofa region, one of Ghana's major food baskets, vehicles load up with men between 18 and 40 years old. Many, mostly the young men, hope to reach Europe, while others head to more prosperous countries in Africa. Irrespective of their final destination, they have common aspirations, hopes of good jobs and better lives for themselves and the families they leave behind. Kofi Tuam made that trip years ago. He was only 18 and had lost his father at an early age. His mother, a subsistence farmer, became the sole breadwinner of the family. When Tuam completed junior secondary school, he hawked yams to help his mother, but their living conditions worsened, and Tuam, fifth among 6 children, felt the need to work elsewhere. Open quotes. I wanted to go to Italy to be able to support my mother. Close quotations. Tuam told African Renewal from his home in town of Koramza. I hope I'm not no Koramza in northern Ghana. In 2014, with the financial support with his brother, Tuam joined a group of 35 young men on a journey through the Sahara Desert to Libya, where they take a boat to Europe. All right. However, hoping a crowded boat out of Libya, on his third attempt to cross the Mediterranean, he was arrested and deported to Ghana. He arrived empty-handed. Tuam, now a street preacher in his 30s, tells Africa Renewal that he still hopes to make it to Europe one day, this time by some other route. Now, we're not going to read about the hazardous journey. The point I'm making is that Ghanaians are fleeing Ghana, all right, by the boatloads, okay, by the boatloads trying to go into Europe. So why is, okay, let's just say you're an African American. What makes you think going to Ghana is going to better your life because of what they're promoting? They're promoting tourism. That's what they're doing. They're promoting tourism. It's all about business, okay? It's all about business. And in many statements I've read, okay, in articles, in many videos, to show you exactly and prove to you what I'm talking about, okay? It's nothing but about business. All right, let's go again to another one. All right. I think that was just the well, I read that already, but just a little more detail on that, so we don't have to get into that. But I just want to focus on that and let our people know, man. Listen, if you're gonna go over there and you think you're gonna find a better life, I wish you all the best. Okay? But the truth of the matter is, a lot of y'all that claiming y'all are African Americans and y'all came from slave ships. Okay? That is not true. And I'm not negating the fact that, yes, some Africans from different parts of Africa did come here. But the numbers will, trust me, it was exaggerated. It wasn't the millions and millions they're talking about because the journey was impossible. All right. One of these days, I'm going to bring a brother who was in the Navy, and he'll tell you about the terrain of the ocean and the water. And he'll tell you in his own words. I sat with him and spoke to him, and he said, "Nah, Chief, that journey was impossible. You know, even now it's impossible. Imagine then with the wooden boats." All right. But once again, when something was taught to you from yea high, and that's all you know, and it was handed down and passed down to your children, and it's being taught in schools, on the television, in the media, it becomes your reality. Okay, it becomes your reality. So I just wanted to point that out and let my people know the grass is not always greener on the other side. I wish y'all nothing but the best. But just know that right here is your home. Your home is not over there. Don't think it is. Okay? All we have to do as a people is unite, organize. And I promise you, once we do that, we will start seeing some changes. Okay? We'll start seeing some changes. So let me stop sharing the screen just a little and come back to you guys. And we're gonna start talking. Yes, absolutely. All right. You have the Roots movie. You have people like Jesse Jackson. You have the Al Sharptons. You have the pastors, the preachers. I mean, the Teachers Association. Brothers and sisters, this is deep. Okay, it is deep, man. And I'm going to show you guys. Let us go look into the etymology of African American, and you would see it wasn't like I told y'all before. This is not something that just came about in 1988. All right, it was brought back in 1988. Oh, you feel me? But however, all right, it was attested, I think, in 1969. All right. So once again, I want to thank each and every one of you for being on the build this evening. This platform is about nothing but respect. All right. So I love the fact that we're able to talk, address each other, and do it with respect. I really appreciate that. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to let us go over the etymology of African American. Okay. And we're going to break some things down. And the etymology of the word, or etymology of words, is the original meaning. All right, the foundation, the root of the word. And for the most part, definitions and meanings are different. Okay, the meaning is the root, the origin. Okay, let me click on etymology of African American. I'm going to share my screen again. Yeah. Oh, now we're gonna talk about the transatlantic slave trade. Like I said, I'm gonna get a brother, who was in the Navy, and we sat down and he was breaking that down to me. He said, "Chief, listen, it's not. They have such a hard time right now. Okay, right now they have such a hard time traveling the Atlantic. Imagine doing that when they didn't have the kind of ships they had. So it was impossible, totally impossible. All right, all that stuff was fabricated." Yeah, you had one or two people came over on canoes, but man, listen, that lie, we ain't falling for that. Okay, so we're gonna look at the etymology of African American. Okay, African American is an adjective. All right, an adjective describes a noun. Okay, there are isolated instances from the late 18th and early 19th centuries, but the modern use is a reinvention. Once again, like I tell people, I know what I'm talking about. Jesse Jackson it wasn't invented in 1988. It says what? It was attested in 1969 in reference to African American Teachers Association. Okay? That was only in reference to the African American Teachers Association. African American wasn't attested to be an identity for the people. So I keep telling y'all, when I talk, I know what I'm talking about. All right? African American wasn't created or attested to be in reference to, to call the general so-called black people African Americans. No, it was only in reference to the Teachers Association. And the Teachers Association was sponsored by the Colonization Society. The Colonization Society was one of the sponsors of the Teachers Association. So I'm going to read that again. The modern use is a reinvention first attested in 1969 in reference to African American Teachers Association. And it says what? Which became the preferred term in some circles, for U.S. black. Noun or adjective by the late 1980s. Now, when I tell people you have to read with understanding, don't just read to finish, but read to start. And that's what I do. When I read, I take my time. Because we are always rushing. You in school, hurry up and read. When you got your children, hurry up and read. No, how are they gonna process the information that they're gonna read when you're rushing them to read? They have to read word for word and know exactly what's being talked about. So that's how I read. So I'm able to see between the lines and pull the information out, opposed to assuming, all right? Because it's clear. But when you just read it, it looks as if, well, everybody was called African American. No, it was just the Teachers Association. It was only in reference in 1969. It was only referenced to the Teachers Association. And it says what? Which became a preferred term. Now, let me ask you a question. Who made that determination? The people didn't. Okay? It was an organization who decided and said, you know what? Let's make that the preferred term. Okay? In what? In some circles. It didn't say all so-called blacks in the U.S. In some circles. Let us proceed. It says, see African plus American. 1921 reports African American is now commonly used in the Negro press. Afro-American is attested in 1853 in the Freeman's publication in Canada. Afro-American 1817 as a noun, 1826 as an adjective, was common in abolitionist and colonization society writings. So once again, I am just validating what I'm saying. The Colonization Society was a sponsor of what? The Teachers Association that was only referenced as African American. Okay? It had nothing to do with the population until it became a preferred term to be used. You dig? I just wanted to clarify that. All right? Now, let us click on African. Okay? African. Let's see who an African is and who were first called Africans. Okay? Old English, Africanus, plural, native or inhabitant of Africa. From Latin, Africanos, adjective of Africa, African. All right? From Africa. See Africa. Used of what? Used of white residents from 1815. So once again, you see who the real Africans are? Use of black residents of the US from the 18th century, when it especially meant one brought from Africa, and sometimes was what? Contrasted to the native-born Negro. So the native-born Negro is not an African. But however, He was contrasted to the Africans who came here. So I keep telling y'all, man, when I'm dropping these jewels, I know what I'm talking about. You got to read with understanding once more. I'm going to read that again. African, use of white residents of Africa. It didn't say white residents of Europe. No, white residents of Africa. Use of residents of the US from 18th century, when it especially meant one brought from Africa. We are not disputing the fact that a few may have gotten here, and sometimes was what? Contrasted. In other words, they were making a comparison between the native-born Negro. Obviously, the native-born Negro wasn't the African, or else they wouldn't have made that distinction. All right, then. I rest my case. All right. Now it says, look at African plus American. Let's just see what's the etymology of American here. American, once again, originally one of the Aboriginal peoples discovered in the Western Hemisphere by who? By Europeans. Modern Latin Americanos from America. The original sense is now Native American. Okay? So they changed the original sense of native to the current sense of native, which just means to be born. That's why these natives could claim to be Native Americans, because all it means is to be born. However, as early or late as the 1570s, originally one of what? The Aboriginal peoples. And when we cross-reference that to Noah Webster's 1828, it says the same thing. So all across the board, it's showing you that these natives, okay, took our place as the Aboriginals. I just want to point that out. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing the screen for a minute. And once again, man, it's just the passion. It's just the passion in me, all right? When I'm doing this, I get so hyped, I get excited. You know what I'm saying? So that's just what it is. So I hope you guys can appreciate that passion. You feel me? All right. So I'm just breaking a few things down for you. So when you start calling yourself these things, you know exactly what it means. All right. And read between the lines and see where the semantics are being played. All right. You have to be aware of that. Okay. You have to be aware of that. All right. So now we broke that down. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to speak a little bit, Halito family, Halito. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to break down the Northwest Ordinance, because we, the American Indians, we are the only race that's mentioned in the Constitution. You see what I'm saying? Now, everybody else want to come here and tell us we're not American Indians, right? Or we are this and we are that. But how come you're not in the Constitution? Because the only obligation they had to indigenous people on this land was the American Indian and nobody else. You see what I'm saying? So don't let nobody fool you into giving up your American Indian birthright, because we are the only ones that's written in the Constitution, in the Northwest Ordinance. Don't let nobody take that away from us. Don't let them take that away from us. They want to trick us. Okay? Oh, y'all ain't Indians. Well, Indians is new. Before Indians, everybody was called this. Nah, we weren't called that. Okay? Before we were identified as Indians, we had our own clans, and we identified ourselves by our own families. Okay? So y'all cannot pull that trick on me, man. I am not giving up my birthright as an American Indian. No, it ain't happening. Okay? I don't know what you're talking about, Arnold. You feel me? All right, then. So we're going to talk about that. Let me see. Should I talk about I'm going to talk about the Northwest Ordinance first. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get into that, because if you remember in one of my videos, right, I broke down, or not, I read a little bit from House Resolution 331, and it clearly states that the American Indians are sovereigns of this land. All right. And it clearly states that the United States have an obligation to deal with American Indian tribes from a government to government basis. So I'm going to break everything down for y'all. All right. Once this build is over, man, trust me, your mind is going to be opened up on a whole different level. All right. So let us just share the screen once more. Let's get into this. All right. Boom. Northwest Ordinance. So the Northwest Ordinance of 1789. The Northwest Ordinance guarantees what? Tribal land rights. Congress ratified the Northwest Ordinance of 1787, creating the first organized territory of the United States. Okay? The Northwest Territory includes the region south of the Great Lakes, north and west of Ohio River, and the east of the Mississippi River. The ordinance directs that the utmost good faith shall always be observed towards Indians. Okay? Their land and property shall what? Never be taken from them without their consent. So what had to happen was, okay, because our ancestors were not given their consent, all right, they had to buy out a few chiefs and they had to go to war with our people. And that's why, okay, the 5 civilized tribes was created, because the savages, they call our ancestors, were not given consent to take our land. You feel me? So they have to create something outside of that and keep those that they call savages uncivilized, turn those civilized ones into African American, Negro, colored, black, you know, Afro-American, niggers, all the names that you could think of. Those are the uncivilized Indians. But the civilized ones became part of the 5 civilized tribes. In other words, they sold out. Okay? They sold out. Basically, that's what it meant. But there were millions and millions and millions of our ancestors who said, you know what, nah, I don't want to be civilized. I was good. And we are not going to consent of you taking our land. So I'm going to read that again. The Northwest Ordinance directs the utmost good faith shall always be observed towards Indians. Their land and property shall never be taken from them without their consent. So if you're an American Indian, okay, and you know you're an American Indian, your property cannot be taken from you without your consent. That goes against the law. This is a treaty. Okay? It guarantees tribal land rights. The Northwest Ordinance also provided a method for admitting new states to the Union and spelled out a plan that would allow the U.S. to expand boundaries to the Pacific, which would result in the taking of lands from hundreds of Indian tribes. It didn't say they bought it. They took it. Okay? So therefore, there's always a claim to be had that they have to prove that our ancestors sold that to them. And even if they did, it wasn't under duress, threat, and coercion. And I guarantee you, they cannot prove that. Okay? And also another thing, another claim that could be brought was or is the fact that even if that was done through a treaty or a contract, and then that land was underpaid for, then we could still bring in a claim and say, you know what, now that value, that it was worth more than that. And that could be a substantial claim. So there's just so many ways to go after this. It's not even funny. But first, the people got to know who the American Indian is. And this is what all this is about. It's the re-education of the mind of our people. All right? So the federal tribal relations, land and water. So we don't have to read all that, but I put all the links, okay, of what I'm going over, all that's in the description of the video. So you could go over that and just dive a little more, do your own due diligence when it comes to exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, let us proceed. American Indians and the Constitution. Let's talk about that, because a lot of people know that the American Indians, we are mentioned in the Constitution, and it's a lot of, well, hearsay and some of the things that people are not too sure of. So I'm going to break down exactly what all that means. All right. So you could have a clearer understanding as to what it means to be mentioned in the Constitution, all right, and why, okay? American Indians and the Constitution. Indians are mentioned only 3 times in the Constitution. Now, let me ask you a question. Everybody who's claiming to be us, or they claiming that we are them, how come they're not mentioned in the Constitution? We are the only ones, all right, that this government have an obligation to on this land. So why would I take away my birthright and become something else? What are you, y'all crazy? Come on, man, stop. Okay, stop. Like I said, I'm dropping them jewels, all right? Yet, it says yet, the Supreme Court has developed a vast body of law defining the status of Indians and tribes in our federal system. Okay, what does it say? In our federal system. Okay, in our federal system. This law makes use of the constitutional sources, but also draws heavily on the history between Indians and the federal government, including wars, conquests, treaties, and assumption by the government of a protectorate relationship towards the tribes. They assumed, okay, a protectorate relationship. It reveals that our government is not only, as it's popular believed, one of the dual sovereigns, federal and state. There is also a third sovereign consisting of Indian tribes operating within limited district sphere. Okay, so like I told y'all before, there are 3 sovereigns on this land. You have the federal, you have the state, and you have Indian tribes. Okay, and that was supposed to be the deal. The Republic, the United States, and the Indian tribes, because war was taking place and there was a lot of bloodshed, and everybody came to the table and said, nah, man, you know what? You're already here. We got to stop the killing. So let's see how we could work this out. All right. So there was supposed to be the Republic. Okay. There was supposed to be the United States that deals with the commercial aspect of things. And then it was supposed to be the Indian tribes. You feel me? I'm breaking this down so y'all could know what's going on. So don't let them fool, don't let them make you think that you're a sovereign citizen when you claim to be a sovereign. That's 2 different things. We ain't sovereign citizens. We are the sovereign people of this land because they came and met us here. This is our land. This is our birthright by pedigree. This is ours. We belong to this soil. Okay? Even in their own documents, they call us sovereigns. So don't let these policy enforcers make you think when you say you're a sovereign, you're talking about sovereign citizen. If y'all don't know how to play this game, y'all need to shut up and sit down, and no disrespect. Because a lot of our people are getting caught up in situations because they hear certain things and they don't know how to articulate themselves. Learn first, okay, before you go play. I keep telling y'all, you don't see LeBron, you don't see Steph Curry, you don't see none of them going to play a game without practicing. You have to know how to play. So I'm not telling you shut up to be disrespectful. All I'm just saying is don't get yourself in situations if you don't know what you're doing because you hear other people doing it or talking about it. And that's why I do what I do, to prevent and avoid my people from getting into these situations, man. Knowledge is power. But what's even more powerful than the knowledge is the implementation of the knowledge, because you could know things and don't know how to apply it or implement it. So now we here dealing with how to apply and how to maneuver and how to stand as who you are in this system. Because they're supposed to be, like I said, 3 sovereign bodies. Okay? Federal, state, and Indian tribes. And as an individual who is American Indian, they cannot take that right away from you. You feel me? Even if you are not tribal, they can't take that away from you, because guess what? There was also genocide where our people were taken away from our culture, our life, our language, okay? Or our dialects, so to speak. So let's read some more. And please do not take any offense, like I said, with my harsh delivery. It's just the passion in me, all right? I'm excited when I get excited when I talk about these things. Okay. The 3 references to Indians in the Constitution presage. Hold up. Come on, man. Where am I? Where am I? Where am I? Where am I? Okay, here we go. The 3 references to Indians in the Constitution presage this body of law. 2 of the 3 are found in Article 1 and the 14th Amendment, which exclude Indians not taxed from the counts of apportioning direct taxes and representatives to Congress among the states. Now, a lot of people don't know what it means when it says Indian not taxed, but I'm going to break that down for you this evening. Okay, I'm going to break it down for you. Like I said, we're in school right now. We're in class. All right. You ain't going to learn that in no university. I don't care how much you pay for tuition. You ain't going to learn that. I'll tell you that. All right. Regulate. Come on, man. You know, this ads, a lot of times when you go to the site, so many ads, man. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Congress Article 1 with the Indian tribes. Commerce Clause. Okay. Indian tax. Okay, here we go. The 3rd reference is a grant of power to Congress in the Commerce Clause of Article 1 to regulate commerce with the Indian tribes. The phrase Indian not tax was not a grant of tax exemption. I'm going to repeat that again. Okay, the phrase Indian not tax was not a grant of tax exemption. Rather, it described the status of Indians at the time the Constitution was written. I'm going to break that down. Indians were not taxed because generally they were treated as outside the American body politic. Stop, Chief. What does that mean? Well, let's break that down. The first Indian not tax was not a grant of tax exemption. All right. Rather, it described the status of Indians at the time of when the Constitution was written. So when the Constitution was written, it was just, again, it was just a phrase that described, okay, the status of Indians. Indian not taxed. However, okay, Indians were not taxed because generally it was a general practice. They were treated outside of the American body politic. So how they had to trick us, all right? So to be taxed and make sure that the exemption don't apply to us was they had to do what? They had to pull us into what? The American body politic. What does that mean? In layman's terms, they have to make you a citizen. That is the only way this cannot apply. Okay? So if you are a United States citizen, don't go around talking about you are Indian and you are not taxed. No, you are part of the body politic. I hope y'all get that. Okay? I hope y'all get that. Let me just come back here again. Let me just stop sharing this and make sure you guys comprehend what I'm really dropping. Okay? All right. I'm going to break this down again. Classes in session, like Zazie said. Big up my bro, big up me brethren, Crit Running Water. All right, check this out. Okay. Indian not taxed. All right. That was a general practice for the American Indians who were not part of the system. In other words, the ones they call the uncivilized ones, such as myself. Okay. Now, because they had to pull us into their system, once you became part of their system, the body politic, a U.S. citizen, then you lost that status of Indian not taxed. You dig? So be very mindful. Again, once again, a lot of people, they want to serve 2 masters at the same time and don't know how to do it in its proper context. You cannot serve 2 gods, family. And I'm just using the word God very lightly here. Okay? You cannot serve the devil and God at the same time. So you have to know how to separate yourself. You feel what I'm saying? Now, you as an American Indian, you could be not taxed because you are not a United States citizen, and your business, which is your legal name, could be taxed because that's not you, but you have to know how to set up your business. You feel what I'm saying? So I just wanted to break that down to make sure y'all know exactly what all this means, what Indian not tax means, because everybody's running around, oh, Indians not taxed, but yet still you have voters registration. You know what I'm saying? You're on welfare, you're on Section 8, you're on, you know, you're getting all these benefits. No, no. That's not going to work, family. You have to know exactly what it means. All right. So there's processes. Again, I'm not an expert and I'm not giving legal advice. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not doing none of that. I'm just breaking down public information so a lot of you don't get caught up in these situations. All right. Now, let's go back and share the screen and let's continue this. All right. Here we go. Okay. Let me see, go back. All right, just making sure. Good, I have a slight delay. Okay, beautiful. All right. So the first Indian nut tax was not a grant of tax exemption. Rather, it described the status of Indians at the time the Constitution was written. Indians were not taxed because generally they were treated as outside an American body politic. Like I said, we were supposed to have our own institutions, and therefore they could not impose tax on the sovereign people of the land. That was part of the deal. That's why when they did the first census in 1790, our people were not part of the census. That's why when they had people going to fight their wars, an American Indian could not be enlisted in any armed forces. So the only way they had to do that was to change their status to become either white or to become black. And even as black, they couldn't still join the forces, so they had to become white. So even if sometimes you do your genealogy and you do your family tree and you see one of your ancestors and it says white next to it, it doesn't necessarily mean white in complexion. It could be white as a status. Because once again, Indian people were a distinct sovereign people. All right? And they couldn't be used to fight in wars against themselves or to go fight wars of the United States. So they had to give up, a lot of them had to give up their Indian status or identity, all right, and become white on paper to go fight in those armed forces. It's the same thing with Indians not taxed. As long as you remain outside of the system, the body politic, then they cannot tax you. So they have to find a way to pull our people in so that they could tax them. Now they could do it legally. All right? So I hope that makes sense. So let's continue reading. They were not United States citizens. You hear that? Man, listen, I'm not making this up. Like I said, you have to read with understanding. They were not United States citizens, and they were not governed by ordinary federal and state regulations. So the only way they could govern us through states and federal regulations is when you call yourself a United States citizen and you are caught up in their system getting their benefits. You see what I'm saying? So in order for them to force us to step into their system, they have to make it a problem to get what? To get a roof over your head. They have to make sure it was a problem to put food on your table. They have to make sure it was a problem to clothe your children. So now that you are in a position where you can't feed your family, you can't put a roof over your head, you can't do none of that, then you are forced to assimilate into a system so that now they have legal rights to do what they are doing. But I'm going to read this again. All right? They were not United States citizens. The same way African Americans, okay, of African descent, they could never be United States citizens because of the Dred Scott case. It was never repealed. You feel me? So my people are living an illusion. You are living an illusion, man. All right then. And they were not governed, you hear that? They were not governed by ordinary federal and state regulation. Tribal laws, treaties with the United States, and special federal Indian legislation governed their affairs, okay? The laws, it was tribal law, treaties with the United States, and special federal Indian legislation governed our affairs. Hence, they created the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the BIA. But now even that was infiltrated with all these pale faces. All right? Which even gave more credence to us being pushed out as American Indians and being labeled African American, Negro, Afro, this, all that, while they have these natives usurping our identity, all right? And all these political affiliations that we are supposed to be having with the United States government, we don't have it because our people don't know who they are and they are not organized. Even the ones who know who they are, they're on the internet slandering people's name, cursing people out, all this negative stuff. I'm just saying, I'm calling it, hey, I'm calling a spade, but I'm dropping the jewels so you could see where we are at with it. All right? All right, cool. Only a few Indians who had severed their tribal relations and come to live in non-Indian communities were treated as appropriate for counting in the constitutional mandated apportionment. The phrase probably was the chosen because the apportionment served partly to allocate tax burdens. The aspect of apportionment has lost significance, however, since the 16th Amendment made it unnecessary for the federal government to apportion income tax. The exclusion of Indians not taxed from all aspects of apportionment has, in fact, been muted by changes in the status of the American Indians since ratification of the 14th Amendment in 1866. You see what I'm saying? So here comes the 14th Amendment, all right? They have already classified us as black and civilians and all that. So now what? They're saying, the 14th Amendment is saying that to be a citizen of the United States, you have to be born and naturalized. You have to be born or naturalized and be subjected. However, to be a United States citizen, no, pay attention. It says you have to be born or naturalized and be subjected. So you could be born, you could be naturalized, but you don't have to be subjected. Being subjected is a choice. You see, you have to know how to read between the lines. You feel me? All right. Treaty making with Indian tribes ended in 1871. And in 1924, all Native American Indians who have not already been citizens by federal statutes were naturalized. Okay? So what they did was, all our American Indian ancestors or family who say, nah, you know what, man? I don't want to be civilized. They say by 1924, we're going to make all y'all citizens by a naturalization process. So even if you were born here, you still have to be naturalized. You feel me? Indians were held subject to what? Federal statutes, including tax laws, except where special Indian legislation or treaties offered exemption. So now, again, the body politic, they have to pull you into the game. Now, once you're in the game, you have to play by the rules. So the only way to get back into the status of Indian not taxed is to get out of the body politic and be what self-sustained and step up and deal with them from a government to government basis. But it takes what? Organization, unity, and that's a problem our people seem to have in 2019 because there's so much hate, there's so much jealousy, there's so much animosity. But y'all gonna learn. All right? By 1940, the Department of the Interior officially recognized that there no longer were Indians who could probably be considered Indian not taxed. Why? Because they pull you into the system and they took away your Indian status and they made you citizens. All right? Now, this is in the link below. Y'all can go ahead and read it. I just kind of give you an insight on how to read things and understand what you're reading. All right? Let me come back to the feed for a minute. All right, for those of you, once again, who would like to support, please do, just to show your appreciation. Well, yeah, thank you. All right, so let me give you the link for that. Also, I have the link for www.originaltribalwear.com, an official sponsor of American Aboriginal channel. You feel what I'm saying? So here we go. For those of you who want to support, please feel free. All right, for showing your appreciation. All right. Now, what I'm going to do now, so they talk about the 1924 Indian Citizen Act. So we're going to break that down. So what they're saying is that by 1924, they passed the Indian Citizen Act, all right, where they made all the Indians citizens by naturalization. Okay, so that's why in this day and age, they're saying that, okay, all right, cool. Hold on for a second. Hey, peace, bro.
Peace. Can you hear me?
Hey, what's going on?
All right, Alito. All right,
Everything good?
Well,
Yeah, I got my brother Creek running water on the build.
Well.
Yeah,
Well,
talk to
bro.
people real quick, brother. Say what's up.
Oh man, we thank the ancestors, man.
No doubt.
We thank the ancestors, man, continuously.
Yeah.
Just here enjoying the build, man.
Appreciate that, brother.
Shouts out to the chat.
Oh, that's what's up. That's what's up. You know what I'm saying? Just breaking some things down, brother. You know what I mean? A lot of our people need clarification, you know, as to what's going on, because it's one thing to be in the system and not know. It's, you know, I tell people it's important to know in any game how to play the game and who your players are. So I'm just exposing the game to them that's being played, so now they could start changing their mindset and the way they think.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I concur. Yeah, I've been listening on, man. Just rocking with the information, man, and you know, just enjoying this good vibes from the build, man. I'm loving it. Loving it.
For sure. All right. So if you want to hang in there, brother, you know, like I said, gonna share my screen I'm gonna break down a couple of things and then we'll get to that. All right.
Okay, I'll be in the back chat.
I know that. Appreciate it.
All right,
all right. So here we go, right? So now they brought in the Indian Citizen Act of 1924. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to the actual document and I'm gonna break that down for y'all, because they made each and every one of us citizens by naturalization. Okay, that just happened, period. But I'm going to show you the game that was played to show you that even if they made all the Indians citizens by naturalization, I'm going to show you how even in that, okay, they pull the okie doke on us. All right, and by default we are not United States citizens, and I'm going to prove it to you right now. Okay, I'm going to prove it to you right now. Now, let me share my screen. Let me share the screen again. Okay, so just so you know, once again, and I'm going to explain something to y'all real quick. Well, even before I do that, before I go to Title 28, I'm going to go to the Indian Citizen Act of 1924. Okay, Indian Citizen Act of 1924. That it became, you know, legal. All right, be it enacted. That means it became a reality. Okay, it's manifested by the Senate. By the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in the Congress assembled, that all non-citizen Indians born without the territorial limits, no, born within, pardon me, the territorial limits of the United States be, and they are hereby declared. It was a declaration. If you declare something, it's a declaration to be citizens of the United States. Now, even before we go into provided that, because provided is a condition, let me show you what the United States is. Title 28, Title 28, Section 302. Let's go down to Section 15, subsection A. Okay, what does United States mean? United States, and that's their own codes. I didn't make this up. United States means what? A federal corporation. So what did they do? Let's go back to the 1924 Indian Citizen Act. So keep in mind, the United States is a federal corporation. Indian Citizen Act, they declared them to be what? Citizens of a federal corporation. Now, a man or a woman cannot be a citizen of a corporation. So how did that happen? I want y'all to think about that here for a second. Okay? So in legis, the juristic person is the citizen of the United States, not the flesh and blood American Indian. Okay? Now, when it speaks of, again, it's semantics of words. When it speaks of the flesh, blood American Indian man and woman, it says what? Provided that the granting of such citizenship shall not in any manner impair. Do you know what impair means? Let us go look at the definition of impair. Impair, to hinder. But let's look it up. Let's go to Google real quick. Definition of impaired.
Here's the definition of impaired: weakened or damaged.
Okay, so let us just leave it right there. Impaired means to what? Weakened or damaged. So when we read the Indian Citizen Act of 1924, again, let's read. It says, they declared all American Indians citizens of the United States, what provided, that's a condition, okay, with conditions, provided that the granting of citizenship shall not in any manner what? Impair, weaken, or damage, or otherwise affect the right of any Indian to tribal or other property. And that was approved in June 2nd of 1924. Now I have a few questions for you. Do we have our own land? Do we have our, do I just ask you, then therefore it was what? It was impaired, it was damaged, it was affected. So by default, legally, we are not United States citizens. All right. So I just wanted to break that down for y'all, man. Let y'all know what it is. You know, my brother Creek, you know, if you want to, give some input on that, go ahead, brother.
Peace. Am I on?
Yeah, you on.
Okay. What do we feedback specifically? Because I can say a whole lot.
Yeah, well, I just broke down, of course, the Indian Act tax, and I just broke down, the Indian Citizen Act of 1924. So I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, or we could just continue.
Absolutely, I concur, Chief. You're 100%. You know as well as I do, and a few others of our status. And this is just not something you're saying. This is something that we're living. This is living proof. We have, and for some time, have been able to put our status on the record, as well as not be enumerated when it came to taxes, Indian, which really gives us a distinction outside of, and I just dropped it in the link to there, a quote that was by Wikipedia that I thought was kind of interesting because it was last edited December the 9th, which was less than a week ago. And they just posted, if you read it, I'm not looking at the screen right now, but just ad-libbing, it says that, it says that Black Indians, are considered to be Native Americans or share the culture of Native Americans. And then they break off from that and then try to use an indirect statement to say, and they're still African American or whatever. So the way you read it and interpret it is, it's almost like they're giving you a mixed signal. But early on, they have to admit that, hey, we got Black Indians. Right. And some of these people will take the identity of looking like they're African American, but they're Native. Right. Exactly. So what's going on? It's 2:20. It's a lot going on. Like I said, it's a lot I could say. But to keep it on point on what you were saying, non-tax. You're only going to be held accountable to taxes unless you are a contract. Yes, there has to be something that binds you to an authority. Yep. So if you're not up under that authority, or even if they misconceive, or because they use what's called law a lot as presumption, they're allowed to use presumption. They pull you over, they say, hey, where's your driver's license at? That's when you're supposed to be able to speak out and say, hey, look, I don't have a license. Right. And then, of course, that sounds like the most simplest, vague, or overbroad thing to say, actually, but it's the most correct thing to say outside of all this paperwork and all this other stuff. Because from that point, where the conversations would go is that you're not a citizen. Right. Absolutely. And that's the end of the conversation right there. You're not a citizen unless you was made a citizen, or you don't know. By default, they by using presumption again to identify you as being Black American, and that's it. Unless you voice your opinion either on paper or not on paper. I don't never even show people. I just tell people, hey, look, I don't pay taxes, and I'm not Black. Exactly. Or, if I don't tell them I'm Black, because maybe that might be a little too extreme for dinner table conversation, I might just tell them, hey, not a citizen.
Right.
So,
Yeah. No
it's
doubt.
that simple.
Yeah.
That's simple. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Appreciate that. I appreciate the input on that. All right. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to share a document with you guys, and we're going to go over the document. Now, you see, you have a lot of so-called African Americans, you know, who think they came from Africa looking for reparations. Now, Congress passed, I think, a bill, I think it's HJR 194, I think, or 94, where they did apologize to Africans, okay, of people of African descent for slavery. But they also passed one, okay, the 93, where they apologized to so-called Native Americans for, you know what I'm saying, for what the part that they took in slavery. Now, here's the difference between us bringing a claim and so-called African Americans, because with African Americans, you have to be able to pinpoint, okay, show definitively a record that you came from a slave ship. And not just so, you have to know exactly where you came from. And then here's the tricky part. A lot of these so-called Negroes or so-called Black people who came here, they all didn't just come from Africa. A lot of them came from Britain. A lot of them came from Scotland. A lot of them came from Ireland. A lot of them came from Portuguese, and even some from around the Americas. So that's going to be a hard case to prove. But we know, without a doubt, emphatically, we know that we are American Indians. So we don't have to go say, well, nah, you took us from that. We were right here and you enslaved us in our own land. All right. So I'm going to show you this document, and we're going to go over it briefly. And you could look it up. All right. You could look it up. I pulled it up from one of my files, so it's not in the link, but you could definitely go look it up for yourself. All right. I think that's it right here. Okay. So yes, it wasn't 93. My fault. It was it was H.J.Res3. And HJ stands for House Joint, and Res stands for Resolution. All right. Now it says, to acknowledge a long history of official depredations and ill-conceived policies by the United States government regarding Indian tribes, and offer an apology to all Native peoples on behalf of the United States. You see what I'm saying? So for me, when I travel, I have all these documents in my files. So when I tell you I'm not Black, okay, and I let you know I'm actually an American Indian, I have documents to show that your government apologized for what your people did to my people. So I'm going to ask you a very simple question. All right. Do you want to be one of the officers, all right, that's going to be put on blast as one of the officers that's here, forced assimilation on an American Indian man? So that's why I tell people I don't get into confrontations with police officers. I don't do that. Why would I want to get in a confrontation with a man with a gun and put on a camera to prove what? I got too much wisdom. So I know how to articulate myself, and I know how to present myself. And like, Brother Creek was saying, hey, that's all you got to do, man. Know how to articulate yourself. Too many people calling themselves American Aborigines and American Indians just by name. Don't just let it be another movement like the conscious community. You see, it's a lifestyle. It's a being. You have to be. It's not a thing, well, okay, you know what? That might be the next thing. I know we always looking for something to cling to. We always looking for some sense of belonging. But it has to be you. And once you speak from that perspective, that energy is felt and you get the respect. Okay? Literally, me and my brother just walked into the sheriff office yesterday. I walked in. You see what I'm saying? And as soon as I walked in, the sheriff said, what? Hey, Chief. My brother was looking at me like, huh, do y'all know each other? No, but I walked in with my indigenous gear, with my feathers, and that's what I keep telling people. Okay? You cannot be walking around like a Negro and African American and Black and expect to get the respect. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that these people aren't supposed to get respect, but we are living in a system where Black means dead on arrival. So why do you constantly subscribe to the ideology of calling yourself Black? Because you got all these people teaching you that, especially some of the scholars on YouTube and teachers. They are your enemies. And I'm going to stand firm on saying that. All right? So let me continue to read this. in the House of Representatives, January 4th, 2007. Ironically, that was the same year Obama adopted UNDRIP, United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. Just to let you know, a lot of these things happen simultaneously, but they never put it out to the public and teach it in schools. Okay? Let us read. House Joint Resolution to acknowledge a long history of official deprivations and ill-conceived policies by the United States government regarding Indian tribes and offer an apology to all Native peoples on behalf of the United States. This apology applies to you and I, because those are the people they are talking about with the ill-conceived policies and the deprivations of rights and life and freedom of liberty. All right? Whereas the ancestors of today's Native peoples inhabited the land of the present-day United States since time immemorial. Now, for those of you who don't know what immemorial means, let us go look at it. Definition of immemorial.
Here's the definition of immemorial. Originating in the distant past, very old.
Okay, originating in the very distant past, very old. Okay, so that could be for millions and millions and millions of years. All right, just keep that in mind. So let's read this again. It says, whereas the ancestors of today's Native peoples inhabited the land of present-day United States since time immemorial, for thousands of years before the arrival of Europeans. It didn't say any other group were here from time immemorial. It says the American Indian. Okay? And I'm not going to be specific and call names, because y'all got to read between the lines. So when people trying to fool you and tell you that, oh, well, don't use American Indian, we all this and we all that. Now we ain't all this and you. Now you are who you are, son. We are who we are. We are American Indians. And I know the game y'all trying to play. So once again, it says what? The Native peoples inhabited this land of present-day United States since time immemorial. In other words, man, listen, we don't even know. Very, very old. And we could determine how long that was. And I can say forever. For thousands of years before the arrival of Europeans. It didn't say no other group. It says the American Indians. So be proud to be an American Indian. All right? Whereas the Native people for millennia honored, protected, and stewarded this land we cherish. Whereas the Native peoples are spiritual peoples with a deep and abiding belief in the Creator. You see, that's what we subscribe to. A personal relationship with everything in nature that had a soul. Okay? That is the practice of spirituality, because it deals with the breath. Everything with life we honored. You feel me? And a deep and abiding belief in the Creator. And for millennia, their peoples have maintained a powerful spiritual connection to this land, as is evidenced by their customs and legends. Now, mind you, they didn't say a belief in God. They say in the Creator. Because our ancestors fought against the concept of a God. So the closest thing they could have came to in English to kind of like articulate what that essence was the Great Spirit. You feel me? Okay. Whereas the arrival of the Europeans in North America opened a new chapter in the histories of Native peoples. Whereas while establishment of permanent European settlement in North America did stir conflict with nearby Indian tribes, peaceful and mutually beneficial interactions also took place. I wonder where it's at, because I don't see any of it. Whereas the foundational English settlements in Jamestown, Virginia, and Plymouth, Massachusetts owed their survival in large measure to the compassion and aid of the Native peoples in their vicinities. So don't let these people make us think that we owe them anything. They owe us. We saved their life. We had compassion to us. They should look at us from a perspective of the passion of Christ. We sacrificed for them. Raise the respect. But you don't have respect for yourselves. So you learn to respect yourself, respect each other, you will not get the respect that's owed to you. Period, point blank. Okay, it's written in their documents. You feel me? Let us proceed. Whereas in the infancy of the United States, the founders of the Republic, okay, the Republic. So let me ask you a question. Where's the Republic at? Y'all so busy, Republican, Democrat. Where's the Republic at? When you say your pledge of allegiance, don't you pledge to two entities, the United States and the Republic? How come they only want to make you a citizen of the corporation? Where's the Republic at? See, y'all got to peep game. But let us read. Express their desire for a joint relationship with the Indian tribes as evidenced by the Northwest Ordinance enacted by Congress in 1787, which we just went over. All right, so once again, I'm validating everything I'm talking about, right? Which begins with the phrase, the utmost good faith shall always be observed towards the Indians. Now, let me ask you a question. Did it say the utmost good faith may or might or if we choose? No, it says what? Shall always, not sometimes, not maybe, but always be observed towards the Indians. So whenever I step anywhere and I tell you I'm an American Indian, you better show some respect. Put some respect on my name. And no, I ain't baby. So y'all better realize, man, what it means to be an American Indian, man. Don't let these foreigners fool you. Tell you, oh, that's not who we are. Don't let them fool you, man. Pick the game. Be proud of who we are. This is our birthright. You feel me? Let us proceed. Whereas Indian tribes provided great assistance to the fledgling republic as it strengthened and grew, including invaluable help to Meriwether Lewis and Lewis Clark and their epic journey from St. Louis, Missouri to the Pacific coast. Whereas native peoples and the non-native settlers engaged in numerous armed conflict. Whereas the United States government violated many of the treaties ratified by Congress and other diplomatic agreements with Indian tribes. They are actually admitting what they did. And to me, that's honorable. But the problem is the people that they're calling Indians aren't the Indians. So now they just have to sit around and take the abuse that's being given to them, and they can't talk because guess what? They're not the real Indians. If they start talking too much, guess what? It's going to be a problem and all is going to come out the bag. But we already know. You feel me? Whereas this nation should address the broken treaties. Yes, let's address it. Many of more ill-conceived federal policies that follow such extermination. You hear that? Extermination, termination, forced removal, and relocation, the outlawing of traditional religions, and the destruction of sacred places. They are actually admitting what they did. Whereas the United States forced, you see, forced. They didn't say it was by free will. No, it was forced. Indian tribes and their citizens to move away from their traditional homelands and onto federally established and controlled reservations in the accordance with such acts as the Indian Removal Act of 1830. Man, they're literally telling you the history in one resolution. Okay? Whereas many native people suffered, perished. That's right. Suffered and perished. One, during the excursion, the execution of the official United States government policy of forced removal, including the infamous Trail of Tears and Long Walk. Number two, during the bloody armed confrontations and massacres such as the Sand Creek Massacre in 1864 and the Wounded Knee Massacre in 1890. And three, on numerous Indian reservations. Whereas the United States government condemned the traditions, beliefs, customs of native peoples and endeavored to assimilate them by such policies as the redistribution of land under the General Allotment Act of 1887 and the forcible removal of Indian children from their families to faraway boarding schools where their native practices and languages were disregarded or degraded and forbidden. So once again, our children were taken away from homes and taught that they came from Africa. They came from slaves. Man, if y'all don't know what our people went through, man, that's why I got compassion for our people. Because I know what they've been through. and I will never give up what I'm doing. Okay? Whereas officials of the United States government and private United States citizens harmed native peoples by unlawful acquisition of recognized tribal land. The theft, you hear that? The theft, not they bought or they borrowed, it was stolen. The theft of resources from such territories and the mismanagement of infrastructure. All right? Whereas the policies of the United States government towards Indian tribes and the breaking of covenants, okay, a covenant is a treaty, it's an agreement, all right, with Indian tribes have contributed to the severe social ills and economic troubles in many native communities. Okay? So when you see history is repeating itself, they call you the ghetto. They call you the hood. But let me tell you something. You are the Indians in the ghetto. You are the Indians in the hood. You are the Indians in these urban territories. It is nothing but a reservation. The only problem is you call yourself black on those reservations and in the hood when you're actually an American Indian in the hood. So they should have renamed that movie Boys in the Hood to American Indians in the Hood. I'm going to do the remix. Part 2 coming soon. Whereas, despite continuing maltreatment of native people by the United States, the native peoples have remained committed to the protection of this great land, as evidenced by the fact that on a per capita basis, more native people have served in the United States Armed Forces and placed themselves in harm's way in defense of the United States every major military conflict than any other ethnic group. Now, let me ask you a question. You see, we have to read that again and let these natives come tell me, show me the records. Now, like I said, man, when you have to read with understanding. We ain't playing the games. Give me a second here, all right? I'm about to drop something on y'all real quick, okay? I'm going to drop something on y'all real quick because this is very important. You got to read between the lines. Let's read this again, okay? Whereas, despite continuing maltreatment of native peoples by the United States, the native peoples have remained committed to the protection of this great land, as evidenced by the fact that on a per capita basis, more native people have served in the United States Armed Forces and placed themselves in harm's way in defense of the United States every major military conflict than any other ethnic group. So these native people that are there right now, they are considered an ethnic group. Let them prove to me through military records that they had more people in the army than the so-called black people in this country. Now you will know who the real American Indian is. Let them show the facts. And we are still doing it up to this present day. Come on, man, read to understand. Don't read to finish. Read to start. Whereas Indian tribes have actively influenced the public life of the United States by continued cooperation with the Congress and the Department of Interior through the involvement of native individuals in official United States government positions and by leadership of their own sovereign Indian tribes. Here goes that word sovereign again. Okay? Whereas Indian tribes are resilient because we are a resilient people and determined to preserve, develop, and transmit to future generations their unique culture and identities. We are a distinct people. Know who you are. Know thyself. Whereas the National Museum of American Indian was established within the Smithsonian Institution as a living memorial to the native people and traditions. And whereas the native peoples are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. And among those are life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Okay? Keep that in mind. Now, therefore be it. Therefore be it means that, okay, it is real. It became a reality. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with the Creator, and the Word became flesh. It became a reality. Now, therefore, be it. Number 1, resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives. Number 2, of the United States of America in Congress, enabled. Section 2, acknowledgement and apology. The United States acting through Congress, 1, recognize the special legal and political relationship the Indian tribes have with the United States and the solemn covenant with the land we share. commends and honors the native people for the thousands of years that they have stewarded and protected this land. Acknowledges years of official deprivations, ill-conceived policies, and breaking of covenants by the United States government regarding Indian tribes. Number 4, apologizes on the behalf of people of the United States to all native people for the many instances of violence, maltreatment, and neglect inflicted on native peoples by citizens of the United States. Number 5, expresses its regret for the ramifications of former offense and its commitment to build on the positive relationships of the past and present to move toward a brighter future where all the people of this land reconciled as brothers and sisters and harmoniously steward and protect this land together. Urges President to acknowledge the offenses of the United States against Indian tribes in the history of the United States in order to bring healing to this land by providing a proper foundation for reconciliation between the United States and Indian tribes. And 7, commends the state governments that have begun reconciliation efforts with the recognized Indian tribes located in their boundaries and encourages all state governments similarly to work toward reconciliating relationships with Indian tribes within their boundaries. All right, disclaimer, nothing in this joint resolution authorizes any claim against the United States or serve as a settlement of any claims against. Now, here you go. Here you are telling me everything you did to me, killing my ancestors, taking my stuff. Now you're telling me, well, you know what, disclaimer, that doesn't mean you could sue us. Oh, really? We'll talk about that later on a later date. All right, but America will never be great again until the American Aborigines are restored. All right, y'all better recognize that. All right. Yes, Brother Creek, go ahead, man.
Oh yeah, man, I'm rocking with the information, man. It's excellent, man. Excellent what you're saying. It's kind of hard to interject, man, when you're on point, brother. You're on point. You did bring up something, man, that sparked my interest, and what a lot of people don't understand is the British was never really considered to be the United States how it is now, back in those times of war. So when we talk about, we try to bring it all together as a memorial to separate us from the people. It's obvious even when you're telling the story, because in order to follow the narrative, you have to see it in picture form. So what they do is they show you a sleight of hands. 1 minute is Britain, then 1 minute the United States. Right. But when you focus on too much of these two separate parties, because it doesn't make sense to come from the same place and be fighting.
Word.
So what do? Now they focus on color. So it's a game where 1 minute you're talking about color, and when it makes it too clear of a point and it goes against their narrative, then they switch to countries they're from. So it's all, the timeline is what kind of throws things off. But just to be clear, when you go into the old, the 18th century war or the 19th century wars, most of them are categorized as British and United States. There was no United States. So how can you have something that wasn't at that time, which was considered to be the British British Corporation of India, if I'm not mistaken, going into the early 1800s. So that's where a lot of the confusion comes in at, when you had, in layman terms, you had British troops that were siding with certain Indians. You had French that were siding with certain Indians. And it was for the land for the taking. You had Indians that always been here, okay, that maybe always didn't get along, but they were, active in their own designation. So you had some here, you had some in California, you had some in New York, and they was just well with what they were doing.
Yes.
Then you get these foreigners that come over here that lead an expedition of what's called civil wars, okay, on a land that's not theirs, but when they tell the story, they act as if though it's already the United States. Yeah. It's funny to read this. It's just like, the United States went, in the battle of, just for an example, the battle of Tippecanoe, which was in the early 1800s. And that was led with an expedition with I think the chief, correct me if I'm wrong, Tuskegee, which was the Shawnees. Okay, and they were with Britain. So Britain had certain Indians who were mostly on the east side of Mississippi, and then you had the French who allied the opposite side.
Word.
So what you have is what you have going on today. You got black on black crime and them being an indecision. They're the ones that's in between these two people fighting.
Word.
And we can't see that. And that's what's all led up to this point now. So I was listening to what you're saying. It's like, yeah, it's very interesting. You know, how they, they try to mix up history and make it seem as though this land was already theirs before they take it. Like, people just, anyway, I just want to throw that out there in the chat.
Yeah, no doubt. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that, man. No doubt, no doubt. So, family, man, listen. Just want to come drop that information for y'all. I'm about to conclude the build. All right. Just want to give, a few people a few shout outs. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for coming on the build, man. Great, just once again, man, it's all love. You see, so I'm just gonna give a few highlights. If I kind of like miss a few people, by all means, don't take it personal. You see what I'm saying? But I'm just gonna give you guys a shout out. And for those of you, once again, please go check out www.originaltribalwear.com. You know what I'm saying? Our sister Mohawk got a lot of beautiful clothing. You know what I mean? I will show you the website in a minute. All right, but just go in, just again giving a few people, a few shout outs. Thank you to our brother Creek Running Water for chiming in and coming to be a part of this wonderful build this evening. All right, thank you. All right, so brother, what I like to do, man, I just like to give everybody, what I'm saying, a little shout out. You know what I mean? Because it's good, man, to let people know that your name could come across the screen to show that you are being part of something. You know what I'm saying? Where we are educating our people. You feel me? So while you you could go ahead and talk for a minute, brother. I'm just highlighting some of the comments, you know what I mean, or most of it, showing that the people are on there. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Word. Yeah, just wanted to re-innovate, like I said, man, we give thanks to the ancestors. We are the ancestors. A lot of people, we don't realize that we are incarnated. Go watch the movie Terminator. Shouts out to the creator of the Terminator. Definitely, man. It's a long journey, man, but I think it's coming through. You see where the adversary is collapsing, and he's trying too hard to make something that's obvious go away, and it's not. We're here to stay. No doubt. Our voice is very strong with the amount of people that we have, and increasingly growing. So that we thank the ancestors for that, man.
No doubt. No doubt. No, brother, tell all brothers and sisters, what's your channel, where they could find you, so they could go subscribe. You know what I mean?
My channel's dormant right now, Chief. Okay. But you know what? You always can find me at Pound Chief Creek Running Water.
Yeah.
It's just very simple. I do a lot in the background. I work with a lot of with you as well as the UAN, United IUE Nation. Yeah. And as an associate member, no doubt. I work with other tribal members, and I work with, I do a lot of background stuff. I'm not really the in front type of person, but I'm humble. My number is out there. My email has been out there, no doubt. Which again, I could put it back in the chat again. Yeah. So I support anybody with the voice. Any big platforms, small platforms, it don't matter.
You already know how we do, and I want to shout out Autochthonous One A1, you know what I'm saying, coming for the chat and showing some love,
No doubt.
Peace and love, brother. Peace and love. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man. That's all we do, man. It's just a matter of just making things happen, fam. You know what I mean? That's what it is. And like I said, I remember back in the days, when I first started this journey, man, not too many people, like I said, was talking about that, we American Indians, you know what I'm saying? And people thought I was crazy, but it is just so amazing that, in this day and age, the movement is so strong, and that's because, it's the power of our ancestors that's actually waking up in us. It's that time, it's that spiritual, ancestral bug. You know what I'm saying? So don't let them take you to the hospital and get no vaccination flu, because that ancestral blood that bug is powerful. You know what I'm saying? So stay focused, man. Stay focused. All right.
Yeah, that's facts.
Man, listen, like I said, peace and love to all the brothers and sisters. In January, okay, the first week in January, gonna be launching something major on behalf of us indigenous peoples. You know what I'm saying? So be on the lookout for that. And wherever you're at in your community, whatever territory that you're in, okay, you will have an opportunity to play your part, a substantial part in the growth of our people and who we are. Okay, because everybody will have an opportunity to play a part, a very significant part. All right, and not just more so in our communities, but also on a political platform. All right, and we are coming hard, man. We are coming hard. So anybody again wants to not for us, they're against us. Period. And that's just what it is. You feel me? So with that being said, Brother Creek, in closing, anything you want to add before we get out of here?
Yeah, I'm gonna add to what you just said in closing about the 2020 census, because it's getting both good and bad vibe from both sides. A lot of people are having negative intake on it, being reluctant to have to fill out something that would take them out of a status. They feel like it incriminates them in certain ways, and it goes against their rights. What you want to be mindful of still, it is still a contract. However, when you are presented a contract, you can set your own terms of the conditions of that contract. Okay, you don't want to not accept it, and by default they classify you as being black. So that's important, because a lot of people have been told to not participate in the census. And what happened was, there are a lot of reasons why right now where a lot of us are are fighting against not having to pay taxes versus paying taxes, is because they don't have enough qualifications to either get a CIBD card or to even show where their relatives, even though they are more than 15% blood quantum in their status. And it's important to recognize what they're trying to do without having to sell your soul, so to speak. So you want to be able to set the terms of the conditions of the contract. And we have talked about this before, but we can go again before having to discuss it live. But I'm going to do an example, and maybe me and you in private, we could talk about how we want to display this to the people, so that they can have a way to do it without having to contract themselves away and still be counted without being counted. If that makes sense.
So we'll definitely do that. All right. A1, definitely, brother. Whenever you're ready, just link me, and then we'll do a build on your platform, in regards to some of the things we spoke of tonight. Absolutely. So what Brother Creek and I will do, we'll talk, behind the scenes, and then we'll put some things together and bring it to you guys in regards to the 2020 census and how to move forward. All right, to still be counted, but at the same time not step out of the realm of who we truly are. You feel what I'm saying? So we're gonna work on that. So with that being said, thank you to each and every one of you for participating. And once again, this is all about building. It's all about community, and we are going back to that. It's all about us loving each other as a people again. When one feel pain, the other should feel the pain. When one feel joy, the other should feel the joy. And when any of our brothers and sisters are being successful, we should be joyful for them. And a little news on our sister, the video that I did with the sister that told her story in regards to what the police did to her in Arkansas. Well, some good news. All right. The media came to her home. All right. And they interviewed her, and now they're actually investigating. So I want to thank each and every one of you for just being a part of that build and possibly just sharing the video. But again, I'm not going to take credit for the media coming, but when she reached out to me, it touched my heart, and I had to tell her story. And I put it on different links. I put it in some places in Arkansas. I went on websites and YouTubes and put it. All of a sudden, reached her out today for an update. The media came and interviewed her. So give thanks to the ancestors for that. All right. So I'm thankful. You know what I mean? So, Brother Creek, thank you, and I appreciate you, brother. Love you.
Welcome.
Yeah, we'll definitely
likewise love you, man.
And we'll bring some information to the people once we work on that. So, guys, enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you once again to build, continue to love each other. This is the only way to go. We are all that we got. We ain't got nobody else but us. Nobody's coming to save us. All right. You got to stop looking up to the sky, waiting for that thing to drop. All right. The only thing that's going to drop from the sky in 2020 is the ball in 42nd Street. All right. Everything else we got to work hard for. So let us get our feet on the ground and let us work, put in that work. All right. There is a saying, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Well, in 2020, The new tag is render unto the American Indian what is the American Indian. America will never be great again unless the original people are restored. May the ancestors continue to walk with y'all. And thank you. Give thanks to the Great Spirit. We out. Peace and love. Peace, brother.
Peace. Wadu.